Hello! Great to see you. I'm on the way to interview my friends, new friends, at Brooks Hill Winery. It's going to be a great adventure. I don't know a lot about wines, but I'm getting into them here lately. I got several questions I want to ask them. I want to know, how do they keep the bees off the grapes? Because they grow the grapes there, make the wine there. How do they possibly keep the... That's a good question, right? And I want to ask them about that statue when you pull in. I think I'm going to try to put it like a quick picture of it right there. Give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Brooks Hill Winery is in Brooks, Kentucky. It's about 15 minutes south of Louisville, Kentucky. About 15 minutes, just right down the road, right off I-65. They've been there for about since 2007, and they are under new ownership here just last year. They still got all the great wines, the Lily. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not, but we're going to find out a lot. It's going to be great. Thanks for playing.
There we go.
Here we go. We are at Brooks Hill Winery with Chris Meyer and Christopher Meyer. They do wine tastings all year. They are literally only 15 minutes from Louisville, people. I know you downtown folks thinks it's, they're going to the middle of Kentucky or Land O'Lakes or something, but they're not that far away. I appreciate you guys giving me the time to sit and interview you and talk about your fine winery. I've been here a dozen times probably, and I touched base with Chris the last time I was here and talked him into giving me this time. And it's kind of slow. It's snowing outside, so here we are. Yeah. How you doing, guys? Thank you for putting up with me today.
We're doing well, and we appreciate you taking your time to come out and visit with us.
Excellent, excellent. I appreciate you. So, now, from what I understand, the original owners were Mike and Karen Hatzel.
That's correct.
And they opened in 2007. You and Margaret Meyer, you guys purchased it in 2024.
That is correct.
Okay. And Christopher Meyer, I'm assuming you guys are related somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know how. We'll figure that out maybe.
Yep.
You're the winemaker.
I am, and the general manager, but I'm not winemaker.
Right.
Yep.
So you're doing all the thinking and working, and you're counting the money, right? Is that what's going on here?
I pretty much just fix what breaks. Yeah.
Okay.
Lend a hand to whoever needs it. I always say I have the cellar guy, boss, general boss, and then I have the ladies in here there's one fellow we have that works in here in the tasting room, and they're the ones that basically tell me what to do.
Excellent. Okay. Yep. That's how it probably should be. I mean, you take care of the big things, they take care of the little things. I don't know, or maybe vice versa.
It's kind of vice versa. Yeah.
Okay. So what got you into what made you decide to purchase it? Because it's quite a leap.
It really is, and I tell you, we started out. To give you a little background, Chris was in college. We started just home brewing beer and looking for a major, I guess. Chris, you were kind of looking for a major. You went up to UK to be in the environmental science program, and they sent you over to ag school because of your interest in fermentation and distillation, right?
Correct. So yeah, I went up to UK and I got into the horticulture program, and the plan was to try and brew beer. But then I started working with plants, and I took a couple of classes about winemaking and taking care of grapes out in the vineyard. And I realized that I could do both. I could work with plants and make alcohol at the same time. And I just kind of fell into it. So that's really how it started. And then I moved down I had an internship down in Southern Illinois that turned into a job. I worked at a place called Blue Sky Winery in the Shawnee Wine Trail. If anybody knows about SIU, I lived in Carbondale, so I worked there for about 2.5 years. Learned a lot about vineyard management, taking care of grapes. That's what I did mostly there. And then I moved up to Bloomington, Indiana, and I worked at Oliver Winery, and I worked in their cellar. So that's where I learned a lot about, managing pumps, bulk moves, working filters, clarifying wine, that kind of stuff. And then now I'm here.
So then while he was doing that, Margaret and I really enjoyed visiting wineries. We went to California, Oregon, Washington, and we started to visit wineries in Kentucky. And I'm ashamed to say that before that, we were unaware of the number of wineries in Kentucky, and frankly, that there are a lot of really good winemakers and great wine in Kentucky. We had a bias, like so many people, that you can't get good wine in Kentucky, and that's simply not true. So one day on our way back,
and it's the other, I don't mean to cut you off, but then the other thing is local. So when you go to a local place, you're helping the local community.
100%.
And you can do that on a long weekend. You don't have to travel to California or France or wherever you think you have to go.
That's absolutely right. And we work really hard to support local people around here. We do music. We employ local musicians. We try to bring in the food trucks that are local. So we work really hard to do that, Rick, and that's a great point. But so to get back to how we got here, we were on our way back from visiting him at UK one day. We decided to take the Bluegrass, and we wound up coming through, and we stopped at a couple wineries. We stopped here on a Saturday night.
Nice.
There was, Mike was here with Karen. They had live music. I started to chat with Mike and told him that I really thought I wanted to own a winery. And to Mike's credit, he said that was the worst thing he could possibly imagine doing. So I said,
what's the old saying about like car lots or something? If you want to make $1 million,
start, yeah.
Yes, if you want to make $1 million, spend 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So So I kind of hung around here. We kept coming back. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed coming to this winery. And then I said, Mike, you might be right. Maybe not a winery, maybe a vineyard. And he said, no, I originally told you that a winery was the worst idea. You have actually found an idea
even worse idea.
than that. Yeah. So, but he said, look, if you're serious, come up here, work with me. I'll show you what we do, how we do it, what it takes. Chris was doing his thing. So I came up here and worked with Mike a few times, out in the vineyard, in the cellar, and kept trying to talk him into selling, and he really wasn't interested. But then one day,
well, he got some free labor out of you.
He did. But one day
he's no dummy.
He called and said, "Look, we are getting to the point where this is a little more than I want to do. If you're serious, come on up." And we did, and that's how we wound up here. Excellent. So Mike and Karen were very generous with their time and frankly, mentorship that they've given us. They've been really great. And again, just to kind of let you know, their vision was a winery, and they started with a tire dump. Our vision was a winery, and we started with a winery. So we started a little bit ahead of what they started with. And there are some pictures out front that we keep to kind of continue their legacy of what they started with and where they came from. Because I think it's important to see what someone with a vision can do with what were really bad conditions, I thought.
Well, the tire dump, what do you mean by tire dump?
It was literally a tire. This was a tire shop.
Oh, this building was a tire shop before.
This was a tire shop. They converted this. This is where, in this room, where they originally started their production and moved back into the cellar as they grew, that they built. And we've expanded that a little bit since then. We've improved some of the equipment, some of the processes a little bit because of his knowledge of coming from a much larger winery.
Well, the winery's got to be better for the environment, right?
You'd think, yeah.
Just a touch?
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask Christopher something. The differences in winemaking and beer making, is it so similar it's an easy move, or what's the most drastic difference in that?
Well, for one, fermenting beer is a lot faster than fermenting wine. You can get finished products in, I would say, probably about 2 months. And it's also just kind of different in the way you extract. So for us, we don't really extract sugar from anything. It's just naturally in the grape juice. Whereas, in the grains and stuff for brewing, you have to know your temperatures to steep at, what to rest at. So there's a little bit more that goes into the actual producing of what you're going to ferment for beer than for us. Ours is a lot of monitoring like acid levels and sugar levels throughout the year. till we get to the numbers that we want, and then we pick it then. Then it's crushing and pressing and all that. But
Are you
really,
doing the Louisville ball thing, running around stomping on grapes with your bare feet?
we don't. We actually have a pretty nice press that we use. It's actually
that was going to freak me out a little bit.
Yeah,
no, but I actually have a pretty nice press that I have programmed in for different types of wine that I want to do, because sometimes you want to press harder and sometimes you want to press softer, depending on what kind of wine you're making. But the biggest real difference is, one nice thing about making wine is, one, the alcohol percentage when it's done is higher than beer.
Yeah.
And also the pH is a lot lower than beer. So beers, you have to be real careful. I mean, in all fermentations, you have to be pretty careful about your sanitation, what touches the wine, making sure everything's clean, sanitized, so you don't spread infections or anything like that. But beer is a lot more susceptible to getting inoculated with bacteria or yeast that you don't want, because it's a much more hospitable environment than wine is. So we obviously still clean, sanitize all of our stuff, but it's not nearly as much as you have to be with beer. But it's the same. I mean, all fermentation's basically the same. You have a sugar source, you add a yeast that you want to be in there, you give it a good environment like temperature and stuff to ferment it at, you monitor it, and then when you're done with it, when you get what you want, you stop the fermentation and start cleaning it up. So it's a pretty easy jump, I would say, from beer to wine. Just a little bit different, especially in the finishing processes, more than anything.
Well, I thought that like IPAs came from the British shipping beer all the way to India, whatever, 150 years ago,
Yeah,
and it
so
was safer than water.
Well, and the reason that they're so hoppy and stuff is those hops actually help the shelf life of the beer. So that's why they're called Indian Pale Ales, because all the beers that were going to India, they would really hop them up
To keep them,
so that way on the long journey down to India, they stayed.
because just
good.
whatever they were shipping before would go bad before it got there.
Yeah, it would skunk or go or
Oh.
spoil. But if you put a bunch of hops and stuff in it, it kind of helps keep it
A little
shelf
longer.
life. Yeah, so
But I
that's
would say
and
beer's
that's the reason
not
they
our
call it
ex-
Indy. No,
Right.
I'm not a beer
Beer's
expert
not
by
our
any means.
expertise.
Well, I'm more into beer than wine. Not
Yeah,
that I'm
yeah.
against wine, but that was just a question that I had.
Yeah.
Have you considered maybe, I don't know, having a Brooks Hill beer, one or two, just for?
We've considered it, but right now we're really focused on our winery, growing our footprint. If we get to where, we're doing pretty well with our winery and we can afford to, because really you need another building, you need a lot more space, and it's all different equipment too, unfortunately. Their fermenters are different. You got to have a boil keg, you got to have, all this other stuff. And our tanks that we use are called variable capacity tanks, so I can actually slide the lid up and down to keep head space and stuff, so oxygen doesn't get to my wine while I store it. All of theirs are fixed capacity tanks and stuff like that, and they use inert gases and things like that to keep air
Maybe in the
from them.
future, but it's not any, like next week or next
No.
year. It maybe, but maybe not.
5 years from now or so, if we're doing pretty well, that would be nice. And then, I would love to have a brewery, but right now we're focused on our winery. We're focused on our vineyard more than anything, trying to nail down our recipes for things, get them a little bit better, kind of bring in some new products. We just did a Chardonnay this year that we hadn't done. So
Nice, okay.
Yeah, and I think if you really about beer, we would love to do that. The problem with the beer, like he says, first of all, it's all different equipment. And I think people sometimes think, oh, a winery makes wine in the fall. But we make wine pretty much all year long. Our equipment is not empty. We don't have empty vessels to use. So we would need a whole different system. And I think for us, the sweet spot for beer, it's tough. If you have a little small one barrel brewery, you're just brewing every day, I think. And if you're too big, then you have a lot of excess capacity. So it's tough, I think, to figure out where that sweet spot for us would be. I will say, if somebody was a brewer and wanted to come up here and say, boy, I can set you up with a 3-barrel brewery and I know how to do it and I've got the funding, we'd probably find a way to put them in.
Right.
But I'd love to partner maybe with somebody in that regard, but it's something that
Have to be the perfect situation.
yeah, we're busy enough and we are space constrained. And I think if you want to walk outside later and look, we're space constrained in a way that it would be hard for us to grow without another building here right now. And we're looking, we'd love to do that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay. All right. So have you, since you're the new ownership, have you continued the flavors and qualities of the wines, or have you made any big differences because of your own flavor, taste differences? Or are you just trying to?
No, we especially like the sweet wines that people really know and stuff. We try and keep those as similar as possible. The grandson of the old owners, Christian Pacheco, still works with us and helps me out. He works at UPS full time and now has 2 kids, so he doesn't have as much time as he used to. But he still comes up and helps consult and helps bottle and that kind of thing, so that's nice.
Yeah, I would consider him, if you want to have a title, a consulting winemaker. He's got the history here, he's got the knowledge, he's a wealth of information.
And he's been drinking the wine forever, so he's got the taste. When he tastes it, he's like, that's what it's supposed to taste like. Because, people come up here because they like our wine. We don't want to change it on them. Now,
the one's named after the dog, the Lily is Red. Like, that's one of my favorites because it's not over the top dry. It's that nice in between kind of wine for someone that doesn't know a lot of wines. That's what I like about that wine.
I think that's a perfect description. Mm-hmm. And Lily was the former owner's first dog. Annie was the second dog. Those are labels we have.
Yep.
And like Chris said, and I don't mean to jump in, but Christian, I guess, has that history, like Chris said. And to answer your question about have we changed them, our goal is to keep those customer favorites exactly the way they were and follow that recipe and that formula.
Yep, and we do that pretty much to a T. Now some of the things we have changed is like they're having a little bit of problems with the filtration process. So we just basically added a step to where we have now a coarser filtration first, and then we go to finer, just to speed up the process.
Oh, okay. All right.
And make sure that we get a nice clean product when we're done and stuff. We don't have as much of it. Because, when I came up here the first time they were filtering, everybody, that was like the worst day ever. And nobody wanted to run the filter because it would clog up and it would cause problems. And then, you were here all day and you didn't feel like you got much done. But with the new filtration process, it seems to have gone better. We don't lose nearly as much to the filter or anything like that. So we haven't really changed any of like the recipe or what we put in the wine, but some of the things we do are just a little bit different than in the process of moving it, clarifying it, and finishing it. Mm-hmm. But no, we really try and keep our sweet wines. We try and keep the taste the same, but dry wines are a little different because grapes are different every year. So they're, you're never going to have the same grape twice. So even if you made a really, not that they're going to be bad, but like your Chardonnay from one vintage is not going to taste the same as the next vintage. And vintage is just the year that the grapes were grown and picked. So if you ever hear vintage, like if somebody says this is a 2014 vintage, that means that the grapes were grown in 2014 and the wine was produced in 2014. But the 2015 vintage might be a little different. They might have gotten more rain, they might have gotten less rain, they might have gotten more sun, they might have gotten less sun. So those are where, you kind of do want it to be a little different because you are trying to show off what you've done that year in the vineyard with your grape. But with sweet wines, you add sugar, they have pretty bold flavors, so you should be able to get those pretty consistently the same.
I had no idea about the dry wine. See, I learned something here. So you have learned something here. So you owe us a like and subscribe, by the way. That's interesting. So the vintage is not necessarily when the wine was made, it's when the grape was grown.
Correct.
But it typically is when the wine was made because you make it so soon after.
Yeah, because grapes are interesting and you can pick a banana and it'll continue to ripen. But with grapes, as soon as they come off the vine, they start to degrade. So you want to turn it from grape to juice to wine pretty much, especially your dries, as fast as possible. Because your juice is only getting worse as it sits. So you want to get yeast to it. You want to get, because when you picked it, you did all your tests of your sugar levels, your acid levels, all of those things, and those are where you wanted them at. And if you let it sit, your acid levels could drop and things like that. So you don't have quite as balanced of a wine as you could have had if you let it sit for a week. Your grapes aren't getting more ripe. They're not getting better. They're only getting worse.
Now, will some of the bigger wineries, and I hate to use this word, but I'm going to say the big giant ones like out in California, what I would call a wine factory. If that happens, they amend that. They add acids or add
Yes,
pH. They
you can.
adjust the pH. We don't
And
do
they
that.
and honestly, well, we might. That's not true.
That's true.
So you can do amendments because sometimes you need a little bit more acid, or your sugar level. Your acid was at a good level, but your sugar was a little low. So and that's before fermentation because you add sugar because sugar makes alcohol. So if you don't have enough sugar, you don't have the alcohol percentage you want in your wine. So sometimes you can add sugar to it before you start fermentation, but normally that's done pretty quickly.
We make small adjustments. They might be able to salvage something that we would not try to work
Right.
with.
Yeah. I mean,
We don't try to work with. We try to work with good juice, really good juice.
Yeah. Well, and it's the thing that you can make bad wine out of good fruit, but you can't make good wine out of bad fruit. So you have to start with good fruit if you want good wine. There's really no saving something if it's got volatile acidity in it, if it's got a bunch of rot and stuff in it. You can make wine out of it, but
It might not be good wine.
well, or you turn it to a semi-sweet, something like that, because sugar kind of helps hide some of those flaws.
It might be the $2 bottle.
Yeah, and then so like
My teenage years around the fire in the field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't want to name a brand.
Yeah.
I don't want to
No, but
bash
you're
you.
right.
yes, and
Yeah.
so they'll do that, but at the same time they have their formulas and their winemakers who make sure that their acid levels are right, their sugar levels are right. I mean that's really the science in winemaking, whereas is all before more than anything, and then you check your alcohol levels throughout and make sure that your fermentation's going well. You smell it, make sure that it's in the right temperature range during fermentation, things like that.
Excellent.
I don't know, I know Chris and Christian know way more than I do about those things, but I always think about this industry as, and when I say the industry, I mean the alcohol industry in general, brewing, beer making, wine making, and distilling. There's the science and the art. The science is the front end, the art is how long does it stay on the oak? What are you tasting? What are you seeing? That's kind of the art, and that's where the winemaker, master distiller thing.
Or you taste it throughout the process, and we'll be like, oh, this tastes good, and somebody tastes it, and they're like, that is the worst thing I've ever tasted. It's like, well, we know what it's going to turn into. Yeah, right now it doesn't taste good because it's full of yeast
Right.
and everything else. It's
I
like,
may taste it and go, this is terrible, dump it out. And
Yeah.
you're going to go, no, give it another 12 minutes or 12 hours
well,
or
it's going to be
12 days or
it's gonna be
whatever.
months. It's
Right,
probably-
whatever, 12 months,
Especially
whatever.
like with dry wines, white wines normally take about a year to be produced because it's all about wine's about letting it rest and letting things settle and stuff like that. And then red wines can take even longer than that because not only do you have to let it do that year of that, but a lot of times it's in a barrel for a year or so, or on oak or things like that. So
Yeah, and I'm pretty impatient, but I enjoy going out with Chris, and we're doing a Sauv Blanc right now that we tasted it. The juice was fantastic. We fermented it. Fermentation was finished. We tasted it. Chris said, oh, this is really going to be good. To me, it tasted a little bit bready, but that makes sense because it was still on the yeast.
I had just taken it off the yeast.
Right.
And yeast gives a lot of
Okay.
bready flavors and stuff.
But he knows that's going away. Me,
Right.
I wouldn't. I was like, oh my gosh. But he said, no, that's normal. That's natural. We expect that, and that'll go away as this stuff rests and does its thing. So that's so much fun to go out there and do that though, and learn and get to taste it and see how it changes and matures over time. And, I will say the previous owners made a Cab Sav here that.
I
You
remember
hear
that
about
one. That was
you
pretty
hear about
good.
wine getting better in the bottle, and I swear every time I open a bottle of that, I'm like, this stuff just keeps getting better every time I taste it.
Yep.
Okay, I wanted to clarify something, Christopher. Right. White wines take how long to ferment and be ready?
So, they only take about a month to ferment, but it's really the finishing process that takes a long time. Because again, you gotta let them rest because their acids kind of change and mellow out. So, right now, if you went out and tasted that Sauv Blanc, like he said, it'd be.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
it'd be real sharp on your palate. You'd be like, oh, almost like eating a warhead. Not as bad as eating a warhead, but you'd really get a lot of acid on the front.
Right.
But if you let it sit for about 5 months or so, that really starts to mellow out, and then all of those more subtle flavors, more delicate flavors, like start to come out and not be. And then on your palate, it's not like a sharp jump of acid, and it kind of goes like that. It kind of supposed to kind of roll along your palate like that, and that's what aging that really helps with. And the only way to really do it is aging. And red wines are the same. That's why you let them sit. You want to but a lot of those is because of tannins, which is what dries your mouth out. So right now we have a cab Sav that we brought in this year and we're making, and we're waiting to put it on oak. But if you drink it, it's really acidic right now. But those acids will mellow out. The oak will help kind of mellow everything out, and then those tannins are really dry too, which is why wines that get better in a bottle are pretty much only red wines. And that's what's happening is that, like, you know, you drink it right when they give it to you. And also, no winemaker is gonna let a bottle go out that isn't ready to drink. So when people are like, oh, you should let it sit, it's only gonna get better, but it's also not gonna be bad.
Right.
You know, no winemaker wants to put a product out that if somebody opened the bottle, they'd be like, well, I'm never buying this again.
Right.
So, but a lot of red wines,
they don't want to sell anybody a bottle and go, okay, hold this for a year.
Yeah.
Or 3 months or whatever.
You don't want to put anything in the customer's hands that they have to take care of your wine for you to make it better. You know what I mean? But a lot of people do like to let their red wines rest because those tannins start to soften, so they don't quite dry your mouth out as bad. They're not quite as rough. They're a little bit more smooth and easy on the palate. And that's what's really happening with and just a little bit of oxygen. You don't want a lot of oxygen to your wine, but a lot of red wines, it's like micro amounts of oxygen are getting through the cork, and that also helps soften tannins. But that doesn't mean like open a red wine bottle and let it just sit open for a week, because that's too much oxygen. You don't want that. So it's very,
Okay. So only red wines get better. And from the time that you pick the grapes to the time you're putting it in the bottle, prepare for sale, is about a year.
Year and a half for the reds, and then a little over a year for our whites, our dry whites.
And that
I can do sweet wines quicker just because they don't need to mellow out as bad. I'm counteracting their acids by adding sugar and things like that, so I can make those faster.
Right.
It's still several months.
It's still months. It's still probably about 4 months for me to be able to finish even a sweet wine, and that's if I'm really focused on it and we're really pushing it through. I would like to let it sit a little bit longer even then, because you don't want it to sit too long, obviously, but patience is a virtue in winemaking, and it is tough because you are like, okay, I'm going to put this in a tank, and it's going to sit there for 6 months, but you got to keep checking it too. Make sure that you have good antioxidants in there. You have good microbial protection on it. You got to check all your parts per million on those things to make sure that it doesn't go bad while it's sitting there as well. So, because if it starts to go bad, then you have to either make additions to it to fix it, or
big decisions have to be made.
Yeah, and you got to do it quick, because if you don't do it quick, then those flavors are impossible.
It's for real ruined. It's ruined.
Yeah,
right.
Basically, you got to either turn it into vinegar, or you can sell it to like a distillery, and they can distill it into brandy, something like that. So there are things you can do with it, but you're not making the money that you could have made off of it. If you could have it into a
you
good
guys
wine.
Could start a limited edition brandy.
We'd like
distillation license. Yeah.
Brooks Hill, and put a barrel away. You're going to sell this 10 years from now.
That's a whole nother license, and we are a small farm winery currently, so we take advantage of all the things that allows us to do. And one thing it doesn't allow us to do is distill.
Okay.
Yep.
But
okay, I want to talk about the small farm winery also. One thing I want to ask about is the statue out there. What's the story? Because I've seen it 100 times. I've never thought to ask. I always thought, does she have a name? What's going on here? What's the story on the statue out there?
I don't really know what the story on the statue is. It was here when we bought the place, and people like her, so obviously we're going to keep her. We don't dislike her, and we've just started calling her Brooke.
Okay.
because Brooks Hill Winery, Brooks, Kentucky, Brooks Hill Road. Figured why not?
I was
call her
thinking
Brooke?
Wilma the winemaker, but
Honestly, you can call her whatever you want. She doesn't have an actual title, but we just call her Brooke around here.
I was Wilma the winemaker or Brooke because it's Brooks Hill Winery, but okay.
We really don't have a story around her.
We got to come up with one.
Yeah, we really should.
Or I'm sure
That's
I can
the
ask
original
you, yeah,
owner's
I'm sure I could ask
Italian
you to
grandmother.
Yeah, I need.
That's the original owner's Italian grandmother. I don't know.
We'll ask Mike and Karen. I never did think to ask them about her. So initially, when we bought the place, it was January and it would be foggy up here, and I'd get out of my car and she would startle me because I'd forget that she was here.
So her name is Boo.
But we like to dress her up for Easter or
Yeah, we
for
put Mardi Gras beads
Mardi
on
Gras
her
beads
around
on
Fat
her.
Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah,
so
she's
so
a-
Brooke gets to change her look on the occasion.
Yes, she does.
Occasionally,
We
yeah.
like to.
Okay.
Halloween's a good one. Yes,
And people love to take pictures and stuff with her. That's one of the things that happens a lot. People, after they do their wine tasting and before they get in their cars, they'll all group up around the statue. So
Yep.
yeah,
Maybe we'll do a contest or something and say, but ideas for names for the statue.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do something.
That could be interesting just for fun.
A lot of
If we
people
got
enjoy
4 ideas or 400, it would be, but something to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, we may try that. So I had a question. Like I had a friend that doesn't live that far away from here. Like literally lives on this side of Brooks School, right down the road here, and got a little piece of property. It's really on the downside of this exact same hill.
Okay.
And she tried to grow grapes. Had just one little line, maybe 40, 50 yards, 30 yards, and she did it for a couple years. And every year the bees, like she would go out there and be okay. They're almost ready. And go in the house and walk back out 7 minutes later. I don't know, 7 days. I have no idea. And the bees would just.
Bees or birds?
She
Well,
said
so
bees.
Both will do
well,
that.
so here's
yeah.
what probably happened. So we have to put they almost look like fishing nets.
That's what I wanted to know. How do you protect them?
So we put like fishing nets over, and we call those we just call them bird nets. And we really don't spray pesticides out here. Most of what I spray on them are fungicides and like bactericides, I guess you would call them, because that's what really attacks our grapes around here. The
Really?
humidity. Yeah, we get a lot of powdery and downy mildew out here, especially with our type of grape. It's not very disease resistant.
Okay.
So we have to. That's what I mostly spray. I don't really like to spray pesticides. I will every now and then, but the pesticide I use is not really, unless it gets sprayed directly on them. But it actually, if the fly or whatever bites the fruit, it'll gum up their chewing parts, so they can't get through. And so it's not really. It doesn't really affect the bees as much, and I don't spray it as often, but. Really, what's probably happening is birds are getting to them, and they'll peck them open.
And then the bees come
and
after
then the
them.
bees come in, because the bees won't bother them if the grape is closed, because they can't get to the sugar.
Really?
But as soon as that bird puts a hole in that fruit, now all the insects want it, because they can get to it, and that's where rot can get to them and stuff like that. So it's probably birds causing the bees to come later, because the birds will come and just clear the vine off or just peck at fruit and things like that. So
I thought maybe you were out here with shotguns and bird dogs and
no, I mean there are.
You're out here with a bee outfit and smoke. I mean, how do you know?
So well, and like in bigger vineyards and stuff, they can't really bird net them. You know, like up in the Finger Lakes area where they grow all the Niagara and Concord for Welch's, they have a bunch of different things. I mean.
They've even used falcons and stuff and hawks now.
Well, they do, and you know they're called squawk boxes. You hang them up every so often, and they'll put distress calls or calls from predatory birds. But unfortunately, birds are pretty smart, and they start to figure it out. They also have they call them bird cannons, where it's literally just a giant cannon, and every so often it'll
try to scare them.
So it'll scare them off. But
it's like putting an owl on your back porch. Like it
Yeah,
works for a little while,
Yeah.
works for a week, and then the squirrels, whoever, figure out that
Then they sit there and eat their nuts right in front of them.
yeah, the owl hasn't moved in 2 weeks.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
this is not a dangerous. This is a nice owl. I don't know. They think it's gonna do some zippity doo dah or something.
But luckily, we're small enough here that, and then even still,
Is it like a camouflage net, like from the army?
No, it literally looks like like a casting net for like fishing and stuff, just like a white.
Or at a batting cage.
Yeah,
It's not.
It's a little bit thinner, and the holes are a little bit smaller. But even still,
tighter weave.
it's a tighter weave. But even still, you'll be walking through, and there'll be a bird stuck in it. And you got to chase them. The easiest way to do it is flip the end of the row open because they'll run away from you, so you can't like get them out the side.
Like chasing them out of your house, you close all the doors but one, and then
and you just take them out the end of the row and you close it. But they'll get in there every now. But it definitely saves about 90% of our fruit.
So I always
and then you also got to be careful. You got to walk through every now and then because you put them on before you harvest, obviously. So like the grapes are still growing, the plant's still growing. So sometimes like if the wind blows, it'll blow, and then the net was here, and now the wind's blowing and it's touching your fruit. So now they just stand on the net and pick through the net.
Right.
So you got to come through and kind of pull.
So you're walking
out.
through there twice a day, or especially if it's a windy day.
Normally in the morning, I'll do it. I'll walk through real quick and just kind of pull the parts that are close and just let it go for that. I mean, you can't stay out there all day, unfortunately, but. Yeah, and then so like every day, especially, and it's really not a problem until they start to ripen. So all grapes start out kind of green, like almost like crabapple looking things, and then they'll start to change colors, and that's when they're starting to turn all those acids and stuff that they've been building up into sugars, and that's what the sunlight does. It breaks down those acids into sugars.
It's called what?
Veraison, which is a French term, it just means color change. So they'll go from like this like pale green, or they'll go from this like bright green to like a little bit red to really red, and as soon as they start turning red, all of the wires around here, everything, all the roofs are just covered in birds because they know that's where
it's lunch.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got to get them on because they will clean us out if they don't. And then white grapes do the same thing. They go from that really really green color to they'll just start to turn and look the color like opaque, kind of like the color of a grape.
Pretty.
So
I always with Chris. They're out here, they're looking, and he's testing, he comes out and tests the bricks level to see where he's at,
levels,
when they're thinking about harvesting and how ripe, and to determine when to put the nets on, to tell you the truth, because like you said, if you put them on too soon, the vines grow through them. You've got to really
that's actually really not the problem. The problem with it is now it's even harder to manage for like powdery and downy mildews because without the nets, the leaves are all up. They got space.
And now they're the moisture is the sun's not getting
There's not
out.
as much wind that can get through there. They can't dry out
like
as well.
snow on the north side.
Also, your nets that you put away have been sitting in a dingy shed for a year and a half. So who knows how much mold and mildew you just spread with your nets on there. So basically, right after you put your nets on, you do a spray to make sure you kill all that stuff. But it makes disease management a lot harder. So you want your nets on for as little as possible. But if you do it too late, then the birds can get to them and you lose a lot of fruit.
You can tell when
timing is everything.
I'm going to tell you, you can tell when they're getting ripe because, like Chris said, this hill is covered with birds. So that's an indicator that you're getting close.
Yep.
So birds is your
birds is our biggest predator.
Main predator.
We have,
raccoons. I'm assuming
raccoons. So raccoons can be bad, but we don't seem to. Luckily, our neighbors have some dogs. They kind of just wander around. I think they scare most of the raccoons and stuff off.
Raccoons and deers, they chase away.
So raccoons are bad if they get in there because raccoons
eat the grape.
Well, they'll not only eat them. Like normally, a deer will come up and it'll one bad thing it does is it'll bite like a cluster and just kind of pull on it. So you got like half a cluster that's just got a bunch of grapes kind of
bitten off
or crushed on it. So then those rot and the rest of your cluster rots. But they don't take. But a raccoon, if they can get up there, they'll sit in one plant and just eat every single grape they can find on that. They'll just completely degrape the plant.
Little trash pandas.
Yeah, but the nets kind of help with them as well. And like I said, we don't really have that much deer pressure. I mean, you might find a couple of spots where they've been eating some of the vines and stuff, but it's nothing to where we have to worry about them. Put up deer fences or anything like that. We don't do anything like that. Pretty much the only predator we really need to worry about are the birds.
Okay, so I want the difference between, I know, and I didn't know this. You said you're a farm winery. What's the is there a difference between like a winery and a farm winery?
So I believe to be a farm winery, you do have to have a vineyard.
No.
You know?
In Kentucky, a small farm winery has to have the ability to produce wine. So, and it has to be under a certain volume. There are some restrictions. But the difference between us and we are what we call an integrated winery. We have a vineyard, we have a winery. Most people really, I think, when they think of a winery, they think of something like us that has.
Yes.
But that's not.
My first thing would be
Yeah.
you grow your own grapes. The grapes go down the road or down the hallway or across whatever to where the vats are, and there's some Italian lady. A French lady smashing the grapes with her bare feet.
Grapes.
Right, and then there's some
like
fat guy with just a cigar out of his mouth. He's got in tasting it or something like that. I don't know.
So like it's like a brewery. A brewery makes beer. A winery makes wine, and a vineyard grows grapes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a winery, you don't necessarily have to be a vineyard, and if you're a vineyard, you don't necessarily have to be a winery. It's just that so often in this area, they are integrated wineries.
Right.
Which means you do have your vineyard and your winery as well. And our vineyard, we don't hardly produce any wine from our vineyard. It's very small. It takes a lot of fruit to make juice.
Right.
I think 2 tons I think get you about 100 gallons of juice.
Well, no, 60 cases, between 50 and 60 cases a ton.
Okay, no, but that's not math that anybody knows. But
Right, but anyway, it takes we should be
That's
able to
about
make
100
about 120 cases out of the grapes we grow. And that's just not a whole lot. And we only grow one type of grape, Limburger, which is a German vinifera.
German varietal. It's also called Blaufränkisch.
Blaufränkisch.
So which one of your wines are the wines made by the wines you grow?
We have our Estate Reserve,
which is a blend.
Which is a blend of that and Cab Franc and Cab Sav, which at the time we did grow the Cab Franc and the Cab Sav. Before we even got here, they got rid of the Cab Franc and the Cab Sav, which it was a very small part of the vineyard because the Estate Reserve is about 80%, 85% Limburger, and then we also just have a Limburger as well. So, and it's a red wine, so it's a red grape. It is a good wine, but one of our biggest problems again is it's a German varietal. It does not do well with the fall springs.
Oh yeah.
So it'll bud too early, and then there'll be a late frost, and then
yeah.
that kills all the vines. And then there are other buds that can bud, but they're not nearly as fruitful, and it's not used to this humidity and stuff like that. So it doesn't have good disease resistance around here. So that's one reason that we have problems with it. We are going to slowly, I think, switch to another grape. We don't want to get rid of our vineyard because it is pretty. People like to see it.
Absolutely.
We do like to make wine from it, but we're thinking about switching to a different type of grape so we get more fruit. We don't have to spray as often, and it's just a healthier vine around here, easier to take care of.
But we also added, you asked earlier, we did add a rosé that we made from this Limburger and another vineyard in the area's Chamberson.
Yeah, and Chamberson grows really well in the area.
Yeah, it's a good grape here. I think the Limburger is going to give it a little boldness, but it was a good choice. We wanted to try to make a rosé, and Chris suggested trying to blend those two grapes.
Well, because also our red wines, our red grape does not quite have long enough or enough sun energy basically to ripen fully. So it is a little bit more acidic because all that acid couldn't get broken down into the sugar that it was supposed to. And that's not necessarily good for a red wine, but a rosé, they are supposed to be higher acid wines. So that's why we decided I think it would be a good idea to at least try to turn it into a rosé because it would be a higher acid. And we didn't have. The other nice thing too is you don't have to let it sit on your vine as long. So that's again less sprays, less time for birds to get at it, less time for all that.
Less loss.
You can get your fruit off a little bit faster too because you're not waiting for it to ripen.
And the reason, and this Limburger, it was conducive to that because it is an early. Chris mentioned the problems with it here. It is an early blooming, late ripening. So
it's on the vine for a long time.
It has a very long growing season. Whereas some grapes maybe even have a month less time that they need to be on the vine.
And that's an important month.
Yeah,
it is for us here because the weather is not. the last 3 weeks for Limburger is about the worst 3 weeks in Kentucky for grapes to ripen.
For humidity and rain and everything.
So is it like July, August, I guess?
And Chris said, you know what?
Well, it's 94 today, 96 today.
Yeah, so let's talk about doing something different with this Limburger so that we don't have to take the risk of keeping it on the vine. And we're just getting ready to bottle that rosé. We're going to see. We think it turned out pretty well.
We'll find out.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what we think.
That's exactly right.
That's important.
Exactly right.
So where do most of your grapes or some of your grapes where do your grapes come from?
So a lot of especially our sweet wines, we get from like the Finger Lakes area or like Michigan, because that's where we make it from Niagara and Concord. Niagara is the white grape that Welch's makes all of their white grape juice and white jellies and stuff out of. Concord is what they make, the red grape jelly and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where, they have just hundreds and hundreds of acres of Niagara and Concord.
They're dying to sell some of those grapes.
Yeah, well, they just can't use it all.
Do they just show up like in a bunch, or do they smash it for you?
We get juice for that. So
is that what's called must?
Must is what you have before you press it into juice. So you have grapes that are on a cluster. You put it through what's called a crusher destemmer. It does exactly what it says. It crushes and takes them off the stem, so it breaks the skin, so they're easier to press. And that is must.
Okay, all right.
And then must goes into the press, and then you press the must, and then that turns, and then you got juice. You pump your juice into your tank, and then you add yeast to that.
You got a destemmer. That's not some. I can't even imagine what that machine would do. It's just too much information.
It's actually a lot more simple than you think. It just basically has a big roller, and with holes about that big on either side, and it's got a couple of rubber fingers that stick off a pole that goes in the middle, and it just rotates around and that's what knocks them off the rachis. And then it's just got two rollers after those come off the rachis, which the rachis is the woody part. That's the stem of a grape. It shoots those out, and then it drops the grapes down, and then it just has two rollers that you can adjust how close you want them together, so how hard you can crush them, and that depends on the grape variety. And then it just rolls through those and dumps into the bottom of the thing, and then you have a pump, and it just sucks that all up into the press.
Okay, all
so
right.
It's actually a lot more simple than you think it would be, but whoever figured it out, I don't know how.
But we get most of our Concord and Niagara from that area. And
then a lot of our other stuff, like we had this year we got Sauv Blanc and Cab Sauv from California.
Okay.
And then we also get stuff from Washington and Oregon. So that's for our dries more than anything. Is where we get that during harvest from like California, Washington.
Right. So it's a variety of places.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, but everything is produced here. We either get whole fruit. So like for our red wine, we got whole fruit. Actually, no, we got must in for our red wine because red wine but you let it sit on its skins. That's how it gets a lot of color and pigment and flavor. And
you
winemakers really like to do that because you want to control how long it sits on those skins while it's fermenting.
It gives you more control.
Yeah, because you might want it off a little earlier than, say, their winemaker who was doing it for you would put it on, or a little bit
for whatever reason.
Yeah, right. So you have but with dry white wines, it's easier to ship the juice. It's cheaper to ship the juice,
right?
And you're not macerating, which macerating is letting it sit on the skins. You're not doing that for white wines, so we get juice for that. But like for our dry reds and stuff, we try and get must in so that we can control the time that it sits and macerates and does all that good stuff.
We have a broker out west that we buy through, and she is outstanding. I can tell you the fruit we have gotten and the juice. That we got juice. I didn't want to make wine out of it. It was so good. I just wanted to drink it. I mean, she is extraordinary.
And they have and it's pretty interesting. They have deals with all the vineyards like in California. So Washington and Oregon and stuff like that. Both of our same, but so, Sauv Blanc ripens faster than Cab Sauv does, so you don't want anything to be sitting. So, but they ripen faster in hotter areas.
Help you keep it organized and timely.
So she's like, okay, we'll get Cab Sauv from like this really hot area up here because it'll be ripe at this, but I'll get Sauv Blanc from this cooler area down here because it'll take a little longer, and they're going to be picked right about the same time just because of the different climates that they're in. Instead of trying to be like, oh, well, I'm going to get everything from this area, and then like we'll ship you this now, and then in 2 weeks we'll ship you this, which is going to be expensive because now you're just paying for two
Two shipments,
two shipments instead. So she's really good about brokering with people and like what your plan is and getting you your fruit and your juice at the same time. So that
like trying to add something on Amazon so you get the free shipping.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're tiny customer. We're a very small customer of hers, but she does a great job for us.
So
okay. All right. Is there anything else that you want to tell me about the farm winery that I should know about, Chris? I mean, is there? I know you had said something about before we were talking about how there's some benefits to being the.
Well, in Kentucky, the small farm winery, the benefits are we are allowed to do tastings. The license is very
samplings at like liquor
we can
stores.
sample.
And the biggest thing that we really have going for us too is until about 10,000 gallons, we can self-distribute, so we don't have to have it. So, so normally you have to have
huge. You have to have a distributor involved.
So, and then we'd have to like, so you can do things like make
price goes up. Somebody's got.
Or you can do. You basically have two different LLCs. You have like one that's your winery, and then you have an LLC that is your distributor. But then you have to do, manage all that and make sure it's in the right spots and stuff.
Two tax identification numbers.
Yeah, but with us, we just.
Right.
We have one ID number and we can just self-distribute. So somebody can text me on my phone, one of the local liquor stores, and be like, I need 4 cases of this. I don't have to call the distributor or do a bunch of paperwork to send it to the distributor.
He's at the lake this weekend.
Yeah,
you gotta
so
wait till Monday.
I can put 4 cases in my car, write an invoice, and I can get it to him in an hour.
We just need a resale certificate from the distributor or from the retailer. But, that is, Kentucky is a 3-tier system, and we get to bypass that middle tier of wholesale distributors. That's a huge benefit to us. And then the ability to do tastings and go to festivals and things like that, if we were bigger, we wouldn't be able to do without having to get individual licenses and things. So it is an inducement to help smaller wineries grow. And you and I talked about that a little bit earlier. What would you do if you got bigger? I'd gladly pay the additional licensing costs. So
also we're not growing that fast. We would see. You don't get to 10,000 gallons without seeing it coming. So you're starting to prepare for that. And
well, how many gallons are you at now? If you don't mind telling me, is that not a proprietary
I think about
thing?
last year we produced about 1,500 gallons, so about 1,000.
Oh, you've got quite a little bit to go.
That's what I'm saying. So, it's not like it's going to catch us by surprise one day that all of a sudden we
You're not going to go from 1,600 this year to 11,000. You're not at 8,900 now.
1,700 maybe?
I think closer to 2,000 gallons. Let's see, a gallon is...
Still, the point is we're not that.
Yeah, you're not at 8,400 and growing.
Right.
Like, we're there any minute now, Pop. Whatever.
No, we would know.
You would know you're getting
we need a lot more space and a lot more equipment as well, to produce that much.
Yeah, we love to. It's actually, for us, the constraint right now is space. What is slowing our growth is the ability to make and store.
It's dry goods space, like finished bottles. We don't have. So a lot of
don't
my
have
stuff,
a warehouse.
Right. And a lot of my stuff back there, is finished wine. It's just I can store 100 gallons in a tank on a smaller footprint. Thank you.
Cases,
than I can with cases. I can only stack cases so high. We only have so many pallet spaces back there.
And that building looks full.
It is.
It's full.
Yeah.
So we could produce more if I could get tanks empty, but I can't.
I've got a garage. If you guys will pay me in wine, you could probably keep a couple cases there.
You got to be careful because you guys
are taking it out of bond. We can't do
and not just that. You got to make sure that it's climate controlled because wine can't get too hot. And you also don't want big fluctuations of temperature either because that can really mess with the finished product of it. You think it's nice and safe in the bottle, but if it goes from 60 to 90 to 90 to 60, a bunch of times, and all of a sudden you open that bottle, it's like a skunk beer. It's like if you got a beer hot and cold, and you open it up, it's not been opened, but you're like, this beer tastes terrible. It's like, well, you put it through about 9 different temperature changes. So
that's the biggest. What is the 2 questions here? All right. How long will wine last in a bottle? And does it get better over time? I think you said the reds do, but
Reds are normally the only ones that get better, and it's not even all reds. And I can't say that none of the dry whites don't either. That's not really my specialty on that. But I do know that no like sweet wines are going to get better in a bottle.
they're just going to stay the same.
They're going to stay the same. They're going to degrade a little bit. I would say you probably got about, if you don't open it, I would say drink it within like 2 years at the most.
But there's
really no reason to save sweet wine or things like that.
But there are wines that are, I would say it's indefinite, because you hear people buying these. Now, I don't know if they're buying collector bottles.
They have to be like really, really, really dry red wines.
I would be skeptical of anything 20 or 30 years old, although people say it ages. I mean, the biggest issue is that corks leak.
Well, if you do it properly, normally you store them on their side, and that is to keep the cork from drying out.
Right.
And then you should be okay. It's not about the cork, unless the cork was already
compromised.
Was that called cork tainted or something?
Cork taint, and that's actually.
But it sounds dirty, but it isn't.
It is. It is actually a bacteria that lives in cork, and
okay.
And the best way I can describe it is it almost makes wine taste like the smell of an old pirate ship. It is just weird and musty, and just like when you walk into like an old boat, like an old boat or something that's just been wet all the time. You're just like
wet tarps or canvas.
Yeah. So that's really and so a lot of times, like if you see like in the movies, they let people smell the cork when they're getting it. They're smelling the wine, but they're also smelling to make sure that there is no cork taint as well.
Okay. So the two reasons to smell the Okay.
Because if you can smell it pretty, and then you're like, because the nice thing about it is it doesn't mean that all of the bottles have cork taint. It just means that maybe that one has
that bottle does.
So you got to get a different.
And if you're at a restaurant, you're paying $60 or $20 or $800, whatever, $2. And it's cork tainted, I'm not paying for that bottle. Give me another.
And like you can be like, I believe this smells like cork taint. And a lot of times they'll be like, and then they'll go get you another bottle. Or they'll be like, okay, well instead of that wine, this one's very similar. Like, let's do that and things like that.
So we learned something today. Interesting.
Yeah. And those are like the sommeliers and stuff. Those are the people who like drink the wine and taste it all. And
well, it's got a hint of honeysuckle.
I'm not a sommelier by any means. I think there's only about like 100 or so of them actually in the world. It takes a lot to be like an actual like licensed sommelier.
Is that the person going, this grape was grown on the west side of it by a man with one leg or something? Yeah,
well,
pretty much.
But that's pretty amazing that they can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of time and a lot of testing, believe it or not.
Those super tasters or super whatever, I'm not sure I believe in them. With like bourbons a lot too. Like you got a $30 bottle and a $100 bottle, and you got some super taster or whatever he is talking about honeysuckle and cave limestone, and then you try them and they're really just about as good. Like if this one was $5 cheaper, I wouldn't even buy it.
Right.
Yeah,
I took a wine tasting class, and the guy who was doing it, he's like, don't feel like you need to taste 1,000 things. He's like, most people get one thing, or like if you're smelling, he's like, most people get like one thing.
You don't have to have
like if you get two, you're doing pretty good. He's
right.
Like, and also people get all worked up about like, what am I supposed to be smelling? It's like, well, your nose isn't the same as my nose. Like there's really not a wrong.
And you don't
answer.
need a thesaurus.
Yeah, it's like there's really not a wrong answer.
This is
loquacious. What are you smelling? Like it's just a question. If you smell pear, then you smell pear. Like it's not like there's a yes or no answer to this. Like
it's not a
everybody's senses are a little bit different. And your olfactory senses register things in a different way, and some are more sensitive to other things and not so sensitive to others. So people get all worked up about trying to be right during the tasting and not look stupid. It's like, well, nobody actually knows what they're talking about. Like
we just like to make wine that people like to drink. I think that's the biggest thing for us. We enjoy it. We hear people, there's a bias amongst people that initially will say you can't get good wine in Kentucky. I vehemently disagree. There are people that say all you can get in Kentucky are sweet wines. I disagree with that. I will say that I think you can get really good sweet wine in Kentucky, and if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. But We don't come in here and say, oh, we're making sweet wine. People don't care. They don't think it's good. We come in here and say, we're going to make the best sweet wine we can make. Our customers expect good sweet wine, and that's what we want to give them. We also make good dry wines. We have 20% of our guests that come in like dry wines, and we think we produce a very, very high quality dry wine.
And again, we get good fruit from good places, and it just, yeah.
And I'm not speaking only for us. I will tell you, I visit wineries in Kentucky, and I think that there are a good number of folks around here that make really
There are
good
a lot
wine.
of very, very, very knowledgeable winemakers in Kentucky who really know what they're doing, who just like to be in Kentucky and like to make Kentucky wine.
And I have enjoyed sitting down with them and sharing a glass of wine and talking about it, or their wine, our wine, it doesn't matter, and learning from them. I've learned a lot from the folks around here. I have absolutely enjoyed it immensely.
Well, I don't know about I know a lot of some of the, craft breweries here in town. I've met, not all of them, but a handful of them. And they're competitive in some ways, but they're not competitive in that cutthroat way. Well, I'm going to put that guy out of business or whatever.
Well,
and there's a lot of helping each other out, too. If there's bad weather.
We rely on these folks around here a lot.
Well, and especially for wineries, it's like the bourbon tour. Nobody wants to go to one distillery for the whole day. They want to go to 4 or 5, and it's the same with wineries. Nobody, unless there's like an event going on or something, but they want to come do a tasting, maybe buy a bottle or two, and then they want to go to the next winery. And it's like, if you have 5 or 6 wineries close to each other, that draws people in, whether than if you're just off by yourself. It's like, well, do we really want to go drive 3 hours to go to one winery, or we could go here and in 3 hours we could hit
6 wineries or whatever, 4.
Yeah, there are 4 in Bullitt County, 2 just close to us, and I tell you, of those, I enjoy going to them and visiting them, and I enjoy talking to the winemakers, the owners, and it's just been a really good experience, I think. And I know you've talked to a couple of other winemakers, and it's good to say, hey, what do you think about this? And
or how do you deal with this when it happens? Right. Because we're all winemakers in Kentucky. We all have similar issues.
You're not getting the call going, is the fungus among us?
Yeah.
Do you have it too?
Yeah, or I use this fruit and now I'm having this problem. They're like, oh, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and like you should be able to mitigate that. And you're like, okay, because some of them have been making wine for 30 years, 40 years.
Right.
So they've seen it all and done it all.
They're not making it in a bathtub, or they were.
Yeah. They started out that way.
Yeah, no, they're pretty serious about it. So.
Well, is there anything else that you guys want to add? Any upcoming events or any kind of growth you want to tell me about? We're getting into it. We're talking for a while here.
Actually, I appreciate you asking, because one thing we do want people to know, and you mentioned this earlier, we are 15 to 20 minutes from downtown Louisville, and like I said, we have neighbors where we live in Louisville that feel like if they're coming out here to Bullitt County that they're leaving the country. And 4 great wineries, 2 breweries, 2 really good, 2 good breweries, a couple of good distilleries out here. A lot of reason to come out here. We have events every weekend out here, even in the winter. We do music. We do.
We don't. No.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we got a couple guys coming. We're going to start doing music. We do bluegrass jam. We do line dancing. We do paint parties. And in the summer, every Saturday, we do live music. We have food trucks. So we have...
From 6 to 9. It starts normally the first week after Derby.
Right. And we do...
That's when you're the busiest.
We are.
Yes.
But we have plenty of parking. That's another thing we've heard for years. They didn't have a lot of parking here, but we've increased our parking, and we intend to even increase a little bit more. We're going to take some vines out to do that. Some of the vines don't fruit well anyway, so we're better off with parking than we are with some vines that are just planted, and they did great, but trees grew. You can't stop those things. So the trees grew, they shaded them, and like I said, I'm not as knowledgeable as Chris. Chris will say things, I'll say, why don't they fruit? Well, they get shade. Now they're getting shade. They get beautiful vines, And the vines are trying to collect all that sun, so they get more vines than you could ever imagine. But they don't put a lot of fruit on because that's not.
Or the fruit, or they put fruit on it and it won't ripen because they don't
have
enough
sun.
There's not enough sunlight. So.
Yeah. So moving some of that around a little bit, it's you just have to kind of adapt to your environment.
Are you thinking about buying like neighboring properties or anything like that, or something close?
I don't think I would ever do more vines.
Vines are a lot of work for not a lot of payoff.
We get so
unless you have like a couple 100-acre vineyard, it's very hard to make money. I mean, I think it's like, let's just, so like if you made $1 off of every acre for growing it, if you grow it and turn it into wine, you make about $4.50 every acre. So it's about 4.5 times the increase. But it's just so much. It's so much hands-on work of being out there, and you either have to pay somebody to be out there or pay people to be out there, and that's more money. And then
you also have falcons and hawks and
we have to pay
blasting
for all the
machines
spray,
and bird dogs, and
you have to pay for all the spray and all the chemicals for it, which is those chemicals aren't cheap. So you do 4 times the amount, and all of a sudden
Well, I guess the main
really
point,
hard. But we like to have it because it's pretty. It's nice to see. I like to do it,
and it is our great.
And we have enough. We have about as much as I can run here. I can work the cellar, and I can take care of the vines by myself without having to bring in extra help.
Right.
And if we go any much more, I'm going to need to bring in extra help. And if you're going to do that, it's
might as well get a lot bigger.
Might as well get a lot bigger because I need to get my money's worth out of this guy who should really probably be making $20-something an hour, $22.
I got about a half-acre backyard. You guys want to rent that? Put a couple vines in it?
It's a lot of work. I'm going to have to get a tractor back there to be able to spray. So.
You have to be able to spray and net, and it just really is. The vines are a lot of work. They're beautiful. I love seeing them. I know our guests do. Chris loves working in them. And frankly, one of the reasons they're here is that Mike, the original owner, really found his ability to relax and just kind of have a chance to unwind. He loved the vineyard, and again, that's something we want.
Oh no, that was part of the being what's attractive about it is being able to come out and you're sitting right out here listening to music. And you can see the vineyard.
It is,
and you kind of walk out that way a little bit, like, oh, this is nice,
But we want if we are going to keep the vines, we're going to keep vines that do fruit and will produce some yield for us instead of those that just would be out kind of by the road. That it's nice, people can see them, but we really could use the parking spaces more than we can use vines that don't fruit. So that's where we're going to adjust. Mike planted these things 19 years ago. The trees weren't as tall. Things were a little different. We need to adjust to the current environment. And
they were about as big as they wanted to be. They were both retired. They didn't want to run like a growing winery. They were paying bills.
You don't want to be Moldavo, maybe.
Yeah, they were paying bills. They were hanging out here. They liked it. They hung out, talked to customers, had the business they needed. Their grandson was the winemaker. So, but when we took it over, we do want to expand and we do want to grow. So we do need the extra space for more parking. We have, they didn't throw nearly as many events as we throw. They did the music, but we do other things on different days.
Yeah, we do weddings, we do bridal showers, baby showers, retirement parties. So there's a lot going on up here that people aren't aware of. And when I say that, there's a lot going on up here, I'd like to have a lot more going on.
Right.
I enjoy it too. And I will say that I never dreamed this would be the case, but when someone does have a big event in their life, something that's big in their life, a retirement or a wedding, it is pretty humbling to be here and be part of it. It's really an interesting...
They're always going to remember that moment.
Yeah, and it's just, for us, I enjoy it. And we've had people who say, oh, I got married here 15 years ago, and they come back, and and I'm like, bring a picture, let us know. And I'm thrilled to hear that you're together and your family's growing. And it's just really cool to be part of other people's lives and to see it happen. And I know he gets tired of hearing it, but I always think of that country song about, and I know he gets tired of it, but it is fun to watch everybody have fun and get to be part of that. Anyway, that's
Yeah,
kind of
I guess the main thing was you're not an hour and a half away. If you're somewhere in Louisville, you're probably about 15 or 20 minutes away.
At most 25.
Yeah, that's if you're up close to the East End.
Yeah, if you're
way
over,
out,
like,
Jinx
even in Crestwood, you're still probably only about 25.
25, 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
you can go to a real live vineyard and winery 20, 25 minutes from your house. And I think that's pretty amazing. And people, that is something, Rick, that I think is funny. If they come in and they go to the cellar, they say, "You make wine here?" Yes.
Yeah.
And I also, or the other one is, I hear people say, "Where do you buy your wine that you sell?" And I said, "When you sell wine, that's called a liquor store. We make wine here. That's why
That's
we're
our
called a
winery. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that big building out there that we built. That's
Yeah.
where that's where
We're
the
a
stuff is
winery
at.
because we make wine. We're not because we sell it. We make it.
And then I guess the last thing I really want to say is we do also, as far as events and things like that, we do have special events. We just started a wine club last year.
Wine club, okay.
Yeah.
And if you join that, we do we'll do barrel tastings, because I'll pull some out of the barrel to see like where it's at in its process of aging when we want to pull that. So we do things like that. We do blind tastings to judge which wines do you actually like, because sometimes you have a pre-bias. You're like, oh, I really like this wine, and then if you don't know it, you're like, this wine's not as good as I thought.
Right.
So we do things like that. We're trying to put on more events for our wine club as well, like private events that isn't open to the
That's a
outside
great
public.
point. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody wants to check that out, we really appreciate it as well. We really enjoy people joining the wine club, and it's just nice to have people that support us, and you get to see them, get to know them.
Their website will be at the bottom here, and obviously it'll be in the description.
Yep. And we do have we are doing our rosé is going to be a limited release for wine club members only because we have so little of it. I don't know if they'll buy it all. I mean, they may not like it. I think some of them have tried it and they say they do, but for us, it is something that is special for those people that support us on a frequent basis. So we want to do things special for them too.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Well, I appreciate you guys' time. Excuse me. It's been an interesting conversation. Actually, I learned a lot about wines. We know how long they last, where you guys get them, how long you've been here. So I appreciate your time. And look, you also learned a lot about wines. So you owe us a subscribe and a like. Check out their website.
Okay, first, the SD card. I know the end of the video got cut off. You didn't miss much, I promise. It was just us kind of saying goodbye. The SD card got full, and we had to end the video. It just wasn't worth getting another card just to say, see you later. So that's the case there. I know it ended abruptly, so sorry about that, but these things happen. And I didn't have another one anyway. So if we want to fix it, maybe I'll go back out there and talk to them again. They're not that far from my house. They were very gracious, Chris Mercer and Christopher Mercer. They're obviously kin. Brooks Hill Winery, they were gracious hosts. Been there for a long time. I've been out there a bunch of times. But I got a bunch of great swag. Check this out. Cool shirt, right? Pretty cool. They're not that expensive. Pretty good hat. I know it doesn't match. Maybe I'll get another hat or shirt so they match, or maybe not. Whatever. You know how that is. But they've got a bunch of great wines. I tried a bunch. This was a mango wine. This is one of those wines I think you would try like after cutting the grass, sitting by the pool. It's got a really clean finish. This was nice. This is kind of a dry red, good with dinner. I really don't know that much about wines. I'm just now getting into them. And the reason why I bring this up is that I would have never, ever would have purposely tried like a dry wine. Whenever I've tried a dry wine, it would be after I tried a sweet wine, and it seems terrible. It just sucks the life out of your face, But reason why I bring that up is because I had dinner at Jack Fry's many years ago. Didn't know anything about wine. Was with a pretty girl, trying to impress her, ordering wine. I let the waiter choose it for me. he brings it to me, and it's dry red. Oof, hated it. But I had a steak dinner with it, and as I ate that steak dinner, and that dry red wine was such a perfect pair. It was the best glass of wine I've ever had in my life. I've never been able to kind of, that knowledge, that moment, that aha moment was pretty fantastic. So this is close to that kind of thing right there. This is a cherry cranberry, kind of a sweet wine, something to kind of have around. It was really good. I really liked it. And this is the blackberry and blueberry, black and blue. This one was really good. They got a handful of good wines out there. You've learned a lot. Look, Brooks Hill Winery in Brooks, Kentucky. It's only 15 minutes from downtown Kentucky. So if you're a local, it's nothing to go out there and check them out. They have wine tastings all the time. Okay? So go check them out. Jack Fry's is not a, they're not a sponsor, but I'd like for them to be. Please call. But anyway, you've learned a lot today about wines, how they're made, how long they last in a bottle. You've learned something about a place you maybe didn't know about, so you owe me a like and subscribe. And consider our sponsor, Louisville SEL Strategies. Website will be right in, probably up here. Let's put it right here, I guess. Whatever. You'll see it. They do free website consultations. If you have a business, you need some internet marketing, they're the people to call. Anyway, thanks for playing. See you next time.